The changing demographic of the workforce shifts very slowly over time. The future of the workforce is older, more educated, and more diverse. For example, we should not be surprised to find that 70-year-olds are still working. 70 is the new 50. Millennials are the spearhead behind the changing demographic, with the oldest millennial being only 37 years old, having several decades left to work and being more educated than ever. This is a direct result of the increased population and labor force participation amongst older individuals.
First off, don't pull a Starbucks. Do not host a mandatory diversity training program. These training programs are revealed to be ineffective, and they have even been detrimental to some work environments, advocating for a semi-forced inclusion feeling throughout the company. These training programs can produce a feeling of otherness in underrepresented employees, casting them out even more. Although the most common step for companies to take are diversity training programs, overall, they prove to be ineffective and cause more hostility toward other groups afterwards.
Hiring tests have been used often in the past, in which they assess the skills of potential employees in line-level positions. These hiring tests are standardized and are often administered to the job applicants just to reveal if they uphold a general mental ability to perform in that workplace. These sound general and really not that biased, right? But studies show that hiring managers don't like being told who they can and cannot hire by way of a standardized test. So they often selectively choose who does and does not take the test. A study showed that a West Coast food company HR manager selected only minorities to take the test, while everyone else, predominantly white, were hired without taking the test. How can we have effective diversity programs when these hiring tests are eliciting discrimination from the start? All in all, these hiring tests need to be tossed out the window due to the ability for hiring managers to be selective on who's taking them. Each individual applying for that position should receive a fair chance at obtaining that position, regardless of their diversity.
Another example of a failed attempt at diversity training is the New York Police Department. You heard me right. Even the government isn't immune to the lackluster concept called diversity training. This example reveals the failure of training materials during a cooperative session. The officers were shown an anti-Muslim horror film, which was described as a full-length color feature with more explosions than a Michael Bay film and more blood-splattered victims than an Expendables film. This is pretty self-explanatory of what not to do. If the goal was to juxtapose explosions in Islam, they did just that. Millions of dollars went into this program, and it clearly wasn't effective.
These diversity training programs all attempt to foster a welcoming environment to lead to the creation of new ideas, which is admirable and what every company should strive towards. However, there needs to be an overarching set of espoused values that inherently gives us the ability to accept each other. These values can be anything from fostering new coworker relationships to just increasing acceptance and understanding, all with the intention of empowering employees and making them feel safe at work. We know that 1 + 1 + 1 = 3, and in most scenarios that's absolutely the case. But we're afraid that these training programs are not computing and are actually resulting in a 1 + 1 + 1 = 2. We are experiencing process loss, or getting less than we expected out of our employee groups, simply due to the fact that many employees are not as receptive to these programs as we think. In a 2016 study covering 830 diversity programs, they had employees in two groups read two different essays. The first saying that they had the choice to value non-prejudice, and the second saying that discrimination is prohibited. Quiz results after both readings prove that the second article's demands set off what the researchers called a counter-response to the threatened autonomy, or a backlash. In other words, employees need to feel that they're freely choosing to be non-prejudiced, not that they're having it forced upon them. Diversity training programs attempt to reconcile a company culture that values us for our differences. However, they poorly execute it. While these programs have been around for what seems like an eternity, the modern work environment is more hostile than ever before. According to the Harvard Medical School and the University of California, nearly 20% of employees across the US have been exposed to a hostile environment, which primarily includes discrimination. Clearly, the numbers do not lie, and these programs are not proving as effective as we think. With over 30 million people claiming to be involved in a hostile work environment, we need to reposition our organization's strategies when it comes to managing diversity.
You're 100% right, Patty. The facts do not lie. So let's dive into why diversity training is not working. The first reason why diversity training does not work is that corporations are being forced by consumers. According to the Harvard Business Review, one of the reasons why the training does not work is due to the implied threat from the marketplace. By not having these programs in place, the market will respond with a heavy hand even if the evidence of discrimination itself is not there. The very nature of a forced implementation of anything makes the end product lackluster. Why would they dive deeper into its end implementation when it just becomes something to check off the list to single-handedly get rid of the scrutiny? Another reason why diversity training does not work is the strategy of divide and conquer. The process of creating these marginalized groups leads to more prejudice. According to the Harvard Business Review, people aren't prejudiced against real people. They're prejudiced against categories. The example they provided is, sure, John is gay. They'll say, but he's not like other gays. Categories are dehumanizing and they simplify the complexity of a human being. Focus grouping people into categories increases prejudice, not prevent it. While these diversity programs come with good intentions, they're not seeming to cut it. This is why we need to eliminate them.
We have to believe there's another way. Our solution is to create a welcoming environment from a more hands-on approach. This starts by leading our employees as transformational managers. Now, what does this mean? This means we must lead by creating a model of integrity and fairness, setting clear goals, having high expectations, encouraging others, and providing support and proper recognition for all. Bernard M. Bass's 1985 book called Leadership and Performance Beyond Expectations lays out these goals perfectly. The only way to truly revolutionize a workplace comes from the people who work there, not some program established and standardized for millions of people to take. Study after study shows that the best workplaces come from an internal culture nourished by the people who work there. In essence, our corporate culture is cultivated by the people we hire and share our meaningful work with. Through the hiring process to the last day on the job, we own the values and culture spread by all people involved. With hiring the proper people in mind, one strategy we can use to guide us is the ASA framework.
The ASA framework model creates an understanding of organizational behavior that combines both the individual and the organization together. This model is an essential fire starter amongst individuals within a company and assists in bringing everyone together. Our call to action directly challenges our society to simply throw away the term diversity, and we believe the direction to homogeneity comes to us by the improvement of these organizational programs. We declare that once an individual is brought into an organization, despite any differences including race, ethnicity, age, anything, that they must be accepted as part as one within the organization. It is time to throw diversity training programs out the window.